On my 18th birthday, my mother shoved a black garbage bag into my chest and said, "You have 10 minutes to disappear." Behind her, my father held my phone over the kitchen tile. He looked me in the eye, dropped it, and brought the heel of his work boot down on the screen. Once. Twice. A third time until the glass cracked like ice under a hammer. Then he picked up my car keys from the counter and said, almost casually, "The car is gone too. I sold it yesterday." That was the moment I understood this was not a family argument. It was an operation. They had removed my transportation, destroyed my way to call for help, emptied my bedroom into a trash bag, and hired a locksmith who was already kneeling beside the front door. All before 9 in the morning. My name is Hannah Cole. At 8:47 on the day I legally became an adult, I stood barefoot in my parents' kitchen in suburban Kansas City, holding 6 shirts, 2 pairs of jeans, and 1 winter coat stuffed into a garbage bag. My mother, Valerie, glanced at the wall clock. 9 minutes, she said. I searched her face for something human. A tremble. Regret. Even anger would have been easier to understand. There was nothing. My father, Martin, folded his arms. You wanted independence. Now you have it. I never said that. You have been sneaking around, Mom said. Looking through papers that do not concern you. I was looking for my college documents. My father's jaw tightened. That tiny movement told me more than his words. For 3 weeks, letters addressed to me had been disappearing. One came from a bank. Another came from a law office in Omaha. A third had the words, "Identity verification required," printed across the envelope. Each time I asked, Mom said it was junk mail. Then, 2 nights before my birthday, I found a notice pushed behind the microwave. It listed a loan balance of $86,000. The borrower was Hannah Elizabeth Cole. I had never applied for a loan. I did not even have a credit card. When I confronted my parents, Dad laughed and said banks made mistakes. Mom took the letter from my hand and burned it over the sink. That was when I began searching. I found copies of my Social Security card in a locked desk drawer. I found business forms carrying my name. I found a signature that looked like mine, except the person who forged it made the H too wide. Most frightening of all, I found a photograph of my late grandmother's riverside warehouse with a red stamp across it. Tiransfar Penji. My grandmother, Ruth Cole, had owned Cole River Storage, a collection of old brick warehouses along the Missouri River. She had started with 1 building and a forklift in 1989. By the time she died, the company stored agricultural equipment, antiques, restaurant supplies, and imported furniture for businesses across 3 states. She taught me how to read inventory sheets before I learned algebra. She also taught me something my parents hated. Paper remembers, Grandma used to say. People change stories. Paper keeps the first version. Grandma died 11 months before my 18th birthday. Dad took control of the company, temporarily. Mom began handling the accounts. They told me Grandma had left everything to the family, and that details would be discussed when I was older. Apparently, older meant never. The locksmith removed the old deadbolt. My younger brother, Ethan, stood halfway up the stairs filming me with his phone. He was 16, tall, handsome, and permanently amused by other people's pain. "Wave goodbye," he said. "Stop recording," I told him. Mom did not tell him to stop. She smiled. I looked toward my father. "Where is the money Grandma left for college?" His eyes moved away from mine. That was the answer. I grabbed the landline, but Mom yanked the cord from the wall. "You are being dramatic," she said. "You destroyed my phone. You can buy another one when you get a job. You sold my car. It was registered under your father's insurance. I paid for half of it." Dad opened the front door. Cold March air moved through the hallway. 7 minutes? I did not cry, not then. I walked upstairs to my bedroom. The drawers were empty. My blankets were gone. My desk had been cleared, except for a birthday card from Grandma that I had kept for years. Ethan had already placed his gaming chair beside my window. "You are taking my room." He shrugged. Dad said I needed more space. On his wrist was Grandma's silver compass watch. She had promised it to me when I turned 18. "Take that off." He covered it with his sleeve. "Mom gave it to me. It was Grandma's. And now it is mine." The cruelty in his voice was borrowed. My parents had taught him that anything taken from me became legitimate once they handed it to him. I picked up the birthday card. Inside, Grandma had written, "Hannah, never confuse being loved with being useful. The people who truly love you will not require you to become smaller so they can feel safe." I slid the card into my coat. Downstairs, the locksmith installed a new lock. Mom held out her hand. "House key." I placed it in her palm. Dad pointed toward the driveway. A stranger was loading my blue Toyota into a trailer. "You already sold it?" I whispered. The buyer paid cash, Dad said. The man drove away without looking at me. My entire childhood disappeared behind a pickup truck. I stepped onto the porch carrying the garbage bag. I had $17 in my wallet, no phone, no car, and nowhere to sleep. Mom stood inside the doorway. Do not come back until you are ready to apologize. For what? For trying to destroy this family. Then she closed the door. The new lock clicked. I spent my 18th birthday walking 4 miles to a bus terminal. It began raining before I reached the highway. The garbage bag tore near the bottom, and one of my shoes fell into a drainage ditch. I climbed down, pulled it from the mud, and kept walking. At the terminal, I used $3 to buy coffee I did not want, because the cashier said customers could sit longer. I stayed near a vending machine where a security camera could see me. I had learned that from Grandma too. When you are vulnerable, make sure there is a witness. At midnight, a janitor named Rosa Alvarez found me asleep with my head against the wall. She did not ask why I was there. She looked at the garbage bag, the mud on my shoes, and the birthday card in my hand. Come with me, she said. Rosa took me to the employee break room, gave me soup, and let me use an old tablet connected to the terminal Wi-Fi. The first thing I did was open my school email. There were 11 messages from numbers I did not recognize. One subject line read Final Notisi Kaol revengestories GURNT. Another ready, Mesed APONT Mendi H Eastit Coencel. The last message had been sent by a woman named Naomi Price. Hannah, if you receive this, do not sign anything your parents give you. Your grandmother created protections that become active on your 18th birthday. I believe someone has been impersonating you. Contact me immediately. My hands began to shake. Below the message was a scanned document. It showed that I owned 51% of Coal River Storage through a trust Grandma had created. It also showed 3 loans secured by company property. Each loan carried my name. Together, they totaled more than $1 million. My parents had not thrown me out because I had discovered their secret. They had thrown me out because at midnight, control of the company had legally transferred to me, and they needed me missing long enough to steal the rest. Rosa let me call Naomi from the terminal office. Naomi answered on the first ring. Tell me your full name, she said. Hannah Elizabeth Cole. Your birthday? I told her. Where are you? Kansas City bus terminal. Are your parents with you? No. Do they know you have contacted me? No. She exhaled slowly. Keep it that way. Naomi Price was my grandmother's estate attorney. She had sent 2 certified letters to our house and arranged 3 meetings. My mother had signed for the letters. My father had called the office and said I was studying abroad. I had never left Missouri. Naomi arrived at the terminal with a police officer and a woman carrying a laptop case. The woman introduced herself as Dana Kim, a forensic accountant Grandma had hired 6 months before her death. They did not hug me or tell me everything would be fine. They asked precise questions. When had my phone been destroyed? Who witnessed the car sale? Did I have identification? Had I signed any banking documents? Had I ever authorized my father to act for me? The officer photographed the torn garbage bag and the bruising on my wrist where Mom had grabbed me. Then Rosa showed them the security footage of me arriving alone. It was not dramatic footage. I was just a wet girl carrying a bag. But the timestamp mattered. Paper remembers. Cameras remember too. Dana opened her laptop. My parents had created a company called North Star Asset Partners. On paper, it provided consulting services to Coal River Storage. In reality, North Star had no employees, no office, and no customers. It did have a mailbox rented by my mother. Over 2 years, Coal River Storage paid North Star nearly $700,000. The money funded home renovations, a boat, Ethan's private school tuition, and my father's failed attempt to buy a sports bar. That was only the beginning. Using my social security number, my parents had opened credit lines in my name. They forged my signature as a guarantor. They claimed I was a paid consultant to justify deposits moving through an account I had never seen. When lenders asked to speak with me, Mom answered using a separate phone and pretended to be me. She had practiced my voice. I listened to one recording. Of course I understand the risk, she said in a younger tone. My father handles the details, but I approve the transaction. I felt sick. It is strange to hear someone steal your identity with your own name. You realize a name is not just a word. It is access, it is history. It is the key to rooms you may not even know exist. My mother had been walking through those rooms for years. Why would Grandma let this happen? I asked. Dana's expression softened. She did not know how far it had gone until she became ill. Your father controlled the daily records. Your mother controlled mail and payroll. When your grandmother suspected fraud, she hired me quietly. Naomi placed a small metal box on the table. Inside was Grandma's silver fountain pen, a flash drive, and a handwritten letter. Hannah, if you are reading this under peaceful circumstances, I am grateful. If you are reading it because your parents tried to isolate you, then I am sorry I did not act sooner. Your father believes ownership is the same as entitlement. Your mother believes protecting the family image is more important than protecting the people inside the family. I hoped they would change when confronted. They did not. So I built a door they cannot lock. The trust gives you controlling ownership at 18. It also gives you authority to remove any officer who misuses company money or interferes with your ability to receive legal notice. Do not act only from anger. Anger can warn you that a boundary has been crossed, but evidence must decide what happens next. Protect the workers. Protect yourself. Tell the truth in the right room. I pressed the letter against my chest and finally cried. Not because Grandma had left me a company. Because she had believed me before I knew I needed to be believed. The flash drive contained payroll records, security footage, recorded meetings, and photographs of documents. One video showed Dad entering Grandma's office after midnight. Another showed Mom removing files from a locked cabinet. A recording captured them discussing my birthday. She becomes trustee at 12:01, Mom said. Then she cannot be here at 12:01. Dad replied. What if she calls the attorney? Dad laughed. With what phone? My skin went cold. The plan had been made weeks in advance. They had not lost control. They had used control exactly as intended. Naomi explained that a company board meeting was scheduled in 5 days. My parents planned to approve the sale of 2 warehouses to Northstar for less than half their value. Once the property moved, Northstar would sell it to a developer at full price. My parents would keep the profit. Coal River Storage would keep the debt. And my signature, I asked. Dana turned the laptop toward me. A digital consent form had already been prepared. My forged signature appeared at the bottom. They planned to claim I had approved the sale before turning 18. We can stop it now, Naomi said. But if we move too early, they may destroy evidence or create a story that you left voluntarily and approved everything. So what do we do? Dana looked at me. We'll let them believe you are still alone. For the next 4 days, I stayed in a small apartment Naomi used for visiting clients. Rosa brought me clean clothes. The police issued an identity theft report. Credit bureaus froze my file. Dana traced accounts. Naomi requested an emergency order preventing the sale. I also got a new phone. By afternoon, my family had found the number. Mom called first. Her voicemail was soft and wounded. Hannah, we are worried. You made your point. Come home and apologize so we can fix this. Dad's message was shorter. You are creating legal problems you do not understand. Ethan sent a photograph from my old bedroom. He was sitting on my bed, wearing Grandma's compass watch and holding a game controller. The caption read, "Best birthday gift ever." I stared at the image until anger sharpened into something useful. Behind Ethan was a whiteboard. Written across it were 3 words. Board VODF right away. Below that, HEC Koskadaf Armin. They were using my initials. I sent the photo to Dana. She enlarged the reflection in Ethan's computer screen. A document was open in the background. It was the warehouse sale agreement. The buyer was Northstar Asset Partners. The purchase price was $900,000. Dana had already found a developer prepared to pay $3 million. My brother's joke became evidence. The next morning, Mom emailed me a document titled Family Resolution Plan. It offered to let me return home if I agreed that I had left voluntarily, accepted responsibility for emotional instability, and appointed Dad to manage my trust until I turned 25. At the bottom was a blank signature line. Naomi smiled without humor. They need your real signature because the digital one will not survive examination. I wrote back, I want to talk in person. Mom responded in less than a minute. Dinner. Thursday. 6 o'clock. Come alone. Naomi fitted me with a small recording device. Dana waited in a car nearby. A detective listened through my phone. I entered the house through the same door that had been locked against me. Mom hugged me for exactly 3 seconds. Dad said, "Let us be adults." Ethan did not look up from his phone. They had prepared my favorite meal. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, and apple pie. It was almost funny. They believed food could turn a crime back into a misunderstanding. Mom began with tears. We reacted badly because we were frightened by your behavior? What behavior? Snooping. Accusing. Running away. You put me outside. You chose to leave? Dad said. The locksmith was changing the lock. For security. You destroyed my phone. You were recording private conversations. There it was. They knew. Dad slid the family resolution plan across the table. Sign this, and we move forward. I read it slowly, though I already knew every line. If I sign, You control Grandma's trust. Until you are mature enough, he said. And the warehouses. His eyes narrowed. What warehouses? The two you are selling to North Star. Mom's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. Ethan looked up. Dad leaned toward me. Who have you been talking to? No one you told the truth to. Mom's face changed. The tenderness vanished. You have no idea what your grandmother's company requires. Your father has spent his life holding it together. By borrowing in my name. Silence. I placed copies of the loan documents on the table. Mom recovered first. Those were temporary. I was 17. We did what was necessary for the family. You forged my signature. A dad stood. Lower your voice. I did not. You took my college fund. You opened accounts in my name. You tried to sell company property to yourselves. Ethan stared at our parents. Is that true? Mom turned on him. This does not concern you. It concerns him, I said. His tuition was paid through North Star. Ethan's face reddened. You are just jealous. That hurt more than I expected. Not because it was true. Because it was the sentence my parents had trained him to use whenever I noticed injustice. Dad reached for my phone. I stepped back. If you touch me, the detective listening outside comes in. He froze. Mom looked toward the windows. For the first time, fear entered the room. Dad lowered his hand. Then he tried a different voice, quiet, reasonable, almost fatherly. Hannah, families handle mistakes privately. Identity theft is not a family mistake. You would destroy your mother over paperwork. She used my name. She gave birth to you. The words landed like a bill he expected me to pay forever. I looked at both of them. Giving me life did not give you ownership of it. I left the agreement unsigned. As I reached the porch, Dad followed. He offered me $50,000 to miss Friday's board meeting. When I kept walking, he offered $100,000. Then $200,000. Each offer proved that he knew exactly what my presence was worth. Finally, he said, you walk into that room, and you will lose your whole family. I turned around. You locked me out 4 days ago. Then I walked away. At 11:18 that night, a judge froze the warehouse sale in every North Star account. At 11:26, my father tried to transfer $300,000 overseas. The bank blocked it. At 11:31, Mom called me 14 times. I slept through every call. The board meeting took place Friday morning in Warehouse 1, the first building Grandma ever bought. She had specifically required major ownership changes to be announced there. The brick walls still carried faded paint from the old grain company that used the property before us. Forklifts moved in the distance. Employees gathered between rows of wooden crates and steel shelving. My father arrived in a navy suit. My mother carried a leather folder. Ethan wore Grandma's compass watch. They walked in together, still performing the image of a united family. Dad saw me sitting beside Naomi and Dana. His smile became rigid. There she is, he said loudly. Our daughter has been going through a difficult emotional period. I did not answer. Naomi opened the meeting. She explained that Grandma's trust transferred 51% of voting ownership to me at 12:01 on my 18th birthday. Dad interrupted. My mother was heavily medicated. Naomi placed a doctor's competency letter on the table. She was evaluated by an independent physician on the morning she signed. Mom said the trust had been misunderstood. Dana distributed copies. No one had misunderstood it. Grandma's instructions were simple. If any officer concealed legal notices from me, impersonated me, forged my authorization, removed me from my home to prevent communication, or transferred company property to a related business, that officer would be immediately suspended pending investigation. Their personal inheritance would also be revoked. Dad's face went gray. Naomi turned on a projector. Grandma appeared on the warehouse wall. She looked thin, but her eyes were clear. Martin, she said, if you are watching this and you have managed the company honestly, these protections will not harm you. My father looked down. Valerie, family loyalty does not transform theft into sacrifice. Mom gripped her folder. Ethan, receiving something stolen does not make it a gift. His hand moved over the watch. Then Grandma looked directly into the camera. Hannah, do not confuse revenge with accountability. Revenge asks who can be hurt. Accountability asks who must be protected. The video ended. For one long second, nobody moved. Then Dana began presenting the audit. North Star had received $684,000 through false consulting invoices. My parents had taken $86,000 from my education account. They had opened 3 loans in my name. They had used company money to renovate our home, buy a boat, pay private tuition, and cover Dad's sports bar investment. They had stopped matching employee retirement contributions while continuing to deduct money from paychecks. That detail changed the room. A warehouse manager named Calvin raised his hand. My wife and I delayed retirement because those statements showed less than expected. Dad pointed at Dana. This information is confidential. It is their money, I said. He turned toward me. You are 18 years old. You do not know how to run this company. I know enough not to sell a $3 million property to myself for $900,000. Several employees whispered. Mom stood. Everything we did was to keep the family stable. Dana clicked to the next slide. It showed a photograph of the boat. The name painted on the side was Family Stability. Even Naomi had to look away to hide a smile. Dad slammed his palm on the table. This is a setup. No, I said. A setup is throwing your daughter out after destroying her phone so she cannot answer an attorney. Naomi presented the terminal footage. There I was, arriving after dark with a torn garbage bag. The timestamp appeared in the corner. Then she played the recording from Grandma's files. She becomes trustee at 12:01. Mom's voice said. Then she cannot be here at 12:01. Dad replied. With what phone? No one in the room looked at my parents after that. I had prepared 4 resolutions. The first suspended Dad as president. The second removed Mom from every financial account. The third appointed Dana as interim compliance officer. The fourth created an employee protection committee with authority to review payroll, retirement funds, and major asset sales. Because I held 51% of the voting power, all 4 passed. Dad's keycard stopped working before the meeting ended. Mom cornered me near the loading dock. You are humiliating us. You humiliated yourselves. We are your parents. And I was your daughter when you put my clothes in a garbage bag. Her eyes filled with tears. For a second, I wanted to believe them. Then she whispered, at least protect Ethan. He should not lose his school because of your anger. My anger. Not their fraud. Not the stolen money. Not the forged loans. My anger was still the villain because it was the only thing in the family they could not spend. Ethan approached us. He removed Grandma's watch and held it out. I did not know it was yours. You knew she promised it to me. He looked down. That is not the same. It is exactly the same. Before he could answer, Dana walked over with a representative from the County Historical Society. The watch was not Grandma's personal property. It belonged to a 19th century riverboat captain and had been loaned to Coal River Storage for a traveling exhibit. It was insured for $120,000. Ethan went pale. Dad gave it to me. Dad immediately said. He took it from the office. Mom blamed a clerk. Within 30 seconds, their united family turned into 3 people trying to push responsibility onto someone else. The representative collected the watch and requested security records. That afternoon, investigators searched the company offices. They found shredded documents in Mom's cabinet, blank loan forms with my information, and a second phone containing recordings of her pretending to be me. They also found something no one expected. Northstar had taken money from an account created for Ethan's future college expenses. My parents had not protected him. They had simply stolen from him more quietly. He did not speak to me for 2 weeks. Then he called. I thought they chose me because they loved me more, he said. I sat in Grandma's old office, looking at the river through dirty glass. What did you learn? That they chose whatever was useful. It was the first honest thing he had said to me in years. The legal process moved quickly because the evidence was clear. A probate judge ruled that my parents had violated every protection in Grandma's trust. Dad lost his inheritance and any claim to lifetime use of the family home. Mom lost the investment account Grandma had set aside for her. Both assets transferred into a fund for employees whose retirement contributions had been withheld. The house was sold because company money had been used to pay the mortgage. The boat was seized. Dad's luxury truck went back to the leasing company. Mom tried to call the consequences my revenge. I never corrected her. People who benefit from your silence often call the truth revenge. The criminal case ended with plea agreements. Mom admitted to identity theft, falsifying financial records, and impersonating me during loan verification calls. She received probation, restitution, and a permanent ban from managing other people's money. Dad admitted to fraudulent transfers and attempted concealment of company assets. He received home confinement, community service, and a court order preventing him from serving as a corporate officer during the restitution period. Neither went to prison. Some people told me that was too easy. Others said I had gone too far. I learned that strangers always want a punishment that fits the version of the story they imagine. I wanted something else. I wanted my name back. The loans were removed from my credit file. The education account was restored through recovered funds. The dealership returned part of the money from my car sale after investigators proved Dad had misrepresented ownership. But the most important recovery was not financial. For the first time, nobody could sign for me, speak for me, or decide that my future belonged to the family. It belonged to me. Owning 51% of Coal River Storage did not make me rich. It made me responsible for a damaged company with unpaid suppliers, angry employees, broken trust, and more than $1 million in debt. I was 18. I knew how to track inventory, inspect warehouse records, and spot a forged signature. I did not know how to restructure debt, negotiate insurance contracts, or lead 62 employees. So I did something my father never did. I admitted what I did not know. Dana stayed as compliance officer. Calvin became operations director. Naomi joined the oversight committee. We hired an outside manager with turnaround experience. I enrolled in community college classes at night. During the day, I worked in every department. I loaded pallets. I checked temperature logs. I answered customer complaints. I sat with employees whose retirement accounts had been shorted and explained exactly how repayment would work. Some of them did not trust me. They had no reason to. My last name was the same name printed on their missing statements. Trust did not return because I gave a speech. It returned because the numbers began matching. We sold the boat. We sold unnecessary vehicles. We closed North Star. We recovered enough money to restore employee retirement contributions and avoid layoffs. Then we converted an unused section of Warehouse 3 into a paid training center for young adults leaving foster care or unstable homes. I named it the Ruth Cole Skills Program. Rosa Alvarez became our first facilities trainer. When I asked her to join, she laughed. I only gave you soup. You gave me a locked room when my own family gave me a street. She accepted. 1 year after my 18th birthday, the program enrolled its first 12 students. Each student received wages, transportation support, tools, and help opening a bank account in their own name. That last part mattered to me. We taught them how to freeze credit, read contracts, recognize predatory loans, and protect identity documents. Grandma had said paper remembers. I wanted them to know paper could protect them too. Ethan visited the warehouse 6 months after the board meeting. He had transferred out of private school and taken a part-time job at a grocery store. He looked different without expensive clothes. Not worse, just younger. He stood inside Grandma's office and stared at the empty space where the compass watch had been displayed. I am sorry, he said. I waited. He did not add an excuse. He did not say Mom made him do it. He did not say he was only 16, he said. I liked being chosen. I knew it hurt you. And I liked it because it made me feel safe. It was ugly honesty. That made it valuable. I cannot pretend it did not happen. I said. I know. And I am not giving you a job here. I know. We started meeting for coffee once a month. He eventually entered a public college and studied social work. He said he wanted to work with teenagers whose parents turned siblings into competitors. We did not become close overnight. Real repair is slower than destruction. My parents wrote letters. Dad's first letters blamed Grandma, Dana, the economy, and me. Months later, he wrote one sentence without blame. I thought paying for your childhood meant I owned your adulthood. Mom's apology came after that. She admitted that she had treated love like a limited resource. She gave attention to the child who praised her and punished the child who questioned her. I did not forgive them immediately. I also did not use the company to rescue them. Boundaries are not cruelty. Consequences are not hatred. Forgiveness, when it comes, does not require returning the keys to people who locked you out. 2 years after my 18th birthday, I drove past our old house. A different family lived there. Children's bicycles lay on the lawn. A yellow curtain moved in what used to be my bedroom. I did not stop. For a long time, I had imagined closure as one final confrontation on that porch. I thought I would stand before my parents and say the perfect sentence. But closure was not waiting behind the changed lock. It was in the credit report with my name cleared. It was in the retirement accounts restored. It was in the students walking into our training center with documents no one else controlled. It was in my new apartment, where every key belonged to me. People still ask whether I destroyed my family over money. I tell them money did not destroy us. Money only left a trail. The real destruction happened when my parents decided my identity was a family resource, my future was collateral, and my silence was something they owned. I did not take their home. The court sold a house supported by stolen funds. I did not take their jobs. The board removed officers who robbed the company. I did not turn Ethan against them. The records showed him that favoritism had been another form of control. I did one thing. I stopped protecting the people who had never protected me. On my 18th birthday, I had a torn garbage bag, $17, and 10 minutes to disappear. By midnight, my parents believed they had erased me. They were wrong. They had only removed me from the room where they controlled the story. And once I entered the right room, with the evidence, the truth, and my own name, they were the ones who had nowhere left to hide. Grandma's silver fountain pen still sits on my desk. Beside it is the new key to Warehouse 1. They are small objects, easy to overlook, but I learned something about small things. A signature can move a fortune, a key can open a building, a recording can expose a lie, and one daughter, after being treated like the least important person in the family, can become the reason the whole machine finally stops running on stolen time.